I'm Joe Halco, Director of Community Relations for Northwestern Counseling and Support Services, and welcome to another episode of NCSS Here for You. Since 1958, Northwestern Counseling and Support Services has been providing access to high-quality services which promote healthy living and emotional well-being to the residents of Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Over the years, as the needs of the community have changed, so too have the programs and services that we make available to assist children, adolescents, adults, families, and seniors. We take our role in the community seriously and strive to provide a continuum of the highest quality services to meet the needs of individuals who at any point seek assistance. The month of April is Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month, and during May, NCSS will be holding the 9th annual Autism Walk at Collins Purley in St. Albans. Autism spectrum disorder is made up of a group of complex neurodevelopment disorders resulting in repetitive patterns of behavior and difficulties with social communication and interaction. The symptoms are present from early childhood and can affect daily functioning of individuals with autism very widely with different abilities. Some children with an autism spectrum disorder may have a serious lifelong disability. However, with appropriate treatment and training, some children can develop certain aspects of independence in their lives. To discuss the various programs and services that NCSS provides individuals that are diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder, plus the upcoming Autism Walk, I'm pleased to introduce this month's guests, Megan Gargano, School-Based Autism Program Team Leader, and Brooke Benoit, Behavioral Consultant. I'd like to welcome both of you to the program this month.
Hi, Joe. Thanks for having us.
So let's start with, begin with acknowledging that during the month of April, it's Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month is being celebrated or will be celebrated. And how do you view the importance of this initiative each year?
Yeah, it's, we like to look at it from a lot of different perspectives. I think the two big components for me, as somebody who is an advocate working with the autistic population and the autistic community, is really just using it as a platform to disseminate information. I think a lot of work has been done to help promote awareness of autism. I think us taking strides to promote acceptance of autism in our community and just make sure that individuals diagnosed with autism have that sense of inclusion and belonging and support from their local community. So it's a really great way to disseminate information. It's also a celebration of what the neurodivergent community brings to the table and just really helping promote awareness of not just the diagnosis itself, but also ways that you can support those with an autism diagnosis, resources, and other supports that are available as well. So it's just an overall great way to just engage in a dialogue about all things autism.
Now, the School-Based Autism Program is known to provide effective strengths-based interventions with individualized programming for students that are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, an intellectual developmental disability, genetic disorders, and or Down syndrome within the public school setting. Now, can you talk about what this looks like? The day-to-day?
Our overall goal is really to support clients in achieving their goals through skill building. We collaborate with schools and other service providers to create those individualized goals. And we do that through our practice of applied behavior analysis, which is an evidence-based practice. And we recommend all of our goals for clients through functional learning, and that is in the school as well as the community.
And let me ask how the consultative model of providing support through behavioral analysts and autism specialists supports schools and the student.
Yeah, so the model that our services are provided in are really unique in the sense that they we try to meet students and individuals where they're at. So instead of taking that person out of the public school to receive supports, we go to them. The services that are provided are done right in their public school setting. It's within their local community, with their peers, with their classroom teachers. So it allows them to be able to work on the goals that either they themselves have identified or the people that support them have identified for them, to be able to make those gains right in their local communities. So it's a really important value of our program to be able to support individuals with autism or just anyone receiving services through our program, the opportunity for growth right in their natural environment. And like Brooke was mentioning before, we can do that within the school setting, but we also work on functional skills within the community as well to be able to generalize those skills, work on them in a functional way. But the big piece of consultative services is that we bring the service to them. And we've received a lot of really positive feedback from our schools and our families on that level of collaboration with services.
The other thing I want to mention excuse me, about that is I think people would be surprised to know how many years that NCSS has been in the schools.
Yeah, the school-based autism program first became a service in the summer of 2008. I want to say July of 2008, and we've been providing services to any public school within Franklin and Grinnell County since. So we've been collaborating with and working with our school partners for a very long time and have some really great established relationships with them to be able to meet the needs of every student. We have a sign in our office. We use this saying a lot, but when you meet one person with autism, you meet one person with autism. So all of the programming that we do is really individualized to the student so that they can achieve what their own goals are, their family's goals are, and really just kind of wrap around that family.
You know, you brought up July 2008, and I think it's important to note that if we all were to go back to that point in time, NCSS was looked at as an innovative organization for moving forward with this programming at that point in time. That really hadn't existed before that.
No, the best phrase that I can think of to use is trendsetter, but NCSS really did take that initiative to build this kind of structure within the public school system, and this type of service has expanded across the state through other designated agencies as well, which is amazing because it really does. The other thing that our program does isn't just provide service to the client, but it also builds schools' internal capacity. We joke all the time, we want to work ourselves out of a job, which is scary when you think about it, but what it really comes down to is ensuring that the services that we're providing are only there if they're necessary. And so a lot of the referrals that we get for students are based on schools having tried all of their own resources first and still not seeing the progress that they would like in that student. And so then they contract with us to provide a more intensive level of support. So it's really I feel proud to have been on the team for so long and to be doing this kind of work because it's in just so embedded in what is meaningful for the family, and yeah, a lot of other DAs have adopted this model of service as well. So it's been really successful.
Yeah.
I think important thing to note too is we're constantly growing and evolving too. We always joke that just because we've done it that way before doesn't mean that we always have to continue to do it that way. And I think especially post-COVID, we've adjusted a lot of what our goals were to meet the needs of the community.
Now, let's talk about the parents and how are parents involved with the services that are provided?
Yeah, I mean, we have a very high level of communication with parents. Really, they are the ones who set us up with creating goals for clients, as well as the clients themselves creating goals. We look at short-term goals for clients that we're working on currently, but then also looking down the line at what those long-term goals are 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 15 years down the line, and making sure that the goals that we're creating are meaningful to that family and meeting their values and culture for them.
Now, let's switch to on May the 19th.
Yes.
The 9th annual NCSS Autism Walk will be held at Collins Pearly Sports and Fitness Center in
Yeah.
St. Albans. And let's talk about the importance of this cause-related event and what participants can expect to engage in that afternoon.
So if you, which we highly encourage you all to come, but if you're attending the walk on the 19th, it's just an event that provides resources, information, fun. There's a lot of fun activities for kids to engage in. You can participate in the walk, but it's a celebration. It's a really fun day for people to come together and access supports and resources, see what other members of their own community how we're all engaging, and looking at ways to promote autism awareness and acceptance. And then there's also a lot of fun stuff to do. We have the Big Blue Trunk coming back to the Autism Walk this year with the train and some games. We do raffles and silent auctions. There's snacks and just a whole slew of activities that kids can engage in addition to accessing some of those important things like resources and participating in the walk itself. So it's a really fun day. The details of the walk, so it's Sunday, March 19th. Excuse me. I got March on the brain. It is Sunday, May 19th. The walk begins at 1 o'clock. Registration will be open for folks around 12:30. But the walk will be the activities at the walk will be available for the duration of the afternoon. So until about 2:30, folks can participate in any of the activities that we have there. It will be at the Collins Pearly Sports Complex, and we're aiming to have it on the front lawn, but if it does rain or if it's poor weather, we would just move it inside. But we're really excited. It's crazy to think that we've done 9 of these already, and every year I think we are able to add a little bit more, and we've gotten a really positive response from our community about that.
And one of the interesting things is, as a quote-unquote cause-related event, it really is people, families, and the individuals who are diagnosed on the spectrum. And it is a community. And one of the nice things that you see throughout the course of the afternoon is that a lot of the people know one another, but there's always new faces and people that can get engaged with learning that there are other families in the community who deal with a lot of what they do in their household each day.
Yeah, I know we use the word community a lot, but it's important. It's nice to know that you're not the only person struggling with the same barriers or problems. And so not only are we there to promote acceptance and awareness of the autism diagnosis and the barriers that the autistic community face because of those symptoms that come along with that diagnosis, but it just allows people to have that sense of belonging and community, and know that there are other people experiencing similar issues, and they can lean on one another for those. And then, NCSS as a service provider, it's our slogan, but that we are there for them as well, that our services are really embedded within our community. And so this is a great way for us to ensure that families know that we can support them if that's a service that they're seeking.
Yesterday morning, I talked to a woman who had called and said, I'm looking to see, are you going to hold the Autism Walk again this year? The story is she originally lived in Vermont, then they lived in other parts of the country. And they just moved back in December and had heard that we have had a walk and just was curious if we were doing it again. I said, yes, we are. And, we got to talking, and, one of the things that became very apparent quickly, her little guy is going to be 3 next month and was diagnosed, I think, several months ago. She felt a year ago that was probably the diagnosis ahead of time. But my point being that she's very excited by the fact that being new back to the area again, there will be other people and families that she can kind of talk to, and everybody kind of has a greater understanding of all the circumstances.
Yeah, it's really important. Like I said before, awareness in general is always great. Bringing awareness to something, highlighting it, helping disseminate information and educate others, but really focusing on not just autism awareness, but awareness and acceptance. around how can we build a stronger community to support people who have different or more individualized needs, and not doing it in a way that is an exception to the rule, but kind of having it be like a common thing, just creating more of a supportive environment for families moving back to the area, or people who have lived in this community their whole lives, just to continue to embed supports into our own infrastructure and community, so that they feel really supported and they can be active members of our community, and everything's just a little bit more accessible.
Yeah. So, in your experience, how meaningful is this event for the children that are diagnosed with autism or developmental delays and their families?
Yeah, I mean, very similar to what we were just talking about, of it brings the community together to talk about the awareness and acceptance of those that have individualized needs, whether that's autism or not. I also think that it helps break down the stigma associated with autism. And I think too, for families especially, accessing resources. There's so many resources out there that people might not know about, and this is a great opportunity to learn more about those resources and how they can support them.
So often you hear people say, geez, I just don't know if. And yet, you're right, Brooke, the resources are there, and it's really a matter, again, of raising awareness to where folks can look, to find the supports that perhaps they need.
And I think that's constantly growing as well. Just because you learned about resources last year doesn't mean that there's not going to be more this year as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like even for us as service providers, we're constantly learning about new programs that are out there that we can access and families can access.
I think something that we try to do every year with the Autism Walk too is find new and innovative ways to increase those supports and awareness. Last year was the first year that we invited the Vermont Family Network to the walk, and they were able to come and set up a booth to share information on a parent advocate, who is somebody who can join, attach themselves to a family and a child, and then that parent advocate's in that parent's corner. They're there to help them navigate through team meetings and all of the nuances that come with IEP meetings, or all of these other things that a parent might experience if they have a child with a diagnosis. And that was the first year that we had invited them. We're hoping to have them back this year, but we look for new resources and new supports like that to add to the walk each year, so that we're constantly trying to broaden that bucket of resources for families.
Well, and the other thing too, and you're right, is that on a day-to-day basis with the work that you do, so many times there are other community partners at the table. And that's another thing I think people don't realize is it's not one organization has to do everything. There are other organizations that can work in tandem.
Absolutely. Even just within a school setting, we have a lot of different players at the table. We could do a heavy level of collaboration with special educators, speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, doctors, psychiatrists, different types of specialists depending on what that case requires for support. But then we also collaborate with the Vermont Family Network, with DCF, with other local supports to wrap around that family and that child to make sure that they're getting what they need. Yeah.
So back to the walk here, in addition to teams that register for the event, we're very fortunate this year that we have Med Associates is going to serve as the event sponsor. But there's also several companies and organizations that are sponsoring at all types of levels. Talk about the importance, I know we've used the term a lot today, but community takes a lot of different shapes here.
Yeah.
But talk about the importance of community involvement in the NCSS Autism Walk.
Yeah, I think a big part of having local companies and organizations sponsor events like this is to show their support, is to allow, for whatever, there's lots of different awareness months every month.
Yeah.
We're focusing on April being Autism Awareness Month, but it's just a nice way for the community to show that support, to show that we're taking active steps to, make our community a better place or make our community more inclusive and supportive. So it's just a great way to show that level of support. And the other really big benefit or asset that these organizations bring by sponsoring is really allowing more people to access services through the agency. So whether they're looking for school-based services, which is what we specifically do, but even something like Camp Rainbow, it's a really big resource for families. Summer break is a really tough time because there's a lack of consistency. Kiddos aren't in school. They're not, operating in their day-to-day routine that they're so familiar with. And so having sponsors like this really allows us to have the funding we need to be able to provide as much service as possible, which is a huge benefit to our community.
Yeah, you mentioned Camp Rainbow and you mentioned summer. And the big thing with certainly Camp Rainbow is that it's a camp that's specifically designed for these individuals, where you think of all the other types of camps that are available throughout the summer months. They just can't participate in those because they'd be left behind. But this is specifically structured to them.
It's really it's designed intentionally, and there's a lot of thought that goes into how to make that a fun and accessible week of camp for kids. There are a lot of camps where a person with autism might be able to go and access some of the activities or access it with a level of support, where Camp Rainbow really is designed to be accessible from the get-go. So it really is a huge benefit. I remember specifically from last year that as soon as registration for Camp Rainbow filled up, it was immediately filled like within the week. So we know that it's such a big need for our community, and having sponsors like Med Associate allow us to, like last year, I think we had 60 students. Maybe this year we can have 70. But we need those types of resources to be able to provide a higher level of service and support. And the feedback that we hear from parents in the community a lot is that there isn't enough of those kinds of supports over summer. So Camp Rainbow is a really big resource for families.
One of the other great byproducts of like a Camp Rainbow and a lot of the camps that NCSS has, but let's talk about Camp Rainbow, is that there's an awful lot of young people who volunteer to assist. And one of the nice things is it kind of gives them and shows them volunteering in the community and the impact that you can have on someone's life. And, there have been, I know, a lot of great stories over the years about connections that have been made that way.
It's a really great opportunity to just, even if you've never done something like this before, just expose yourself to something new. It's a volunteer opportunity. It's a way to give back to your community, and it's just fun. There's bounce houses and water slides and games and there's like little trampolines all over the place. It's sensory bins and pools filled with rice. It's just a lot of fun. So not only do you get to volunteer to give back to your community and support somebody who needs it, but then you also just get to have a really great time. And I know Camp Rainbow is always looking for volunteers. So if anyone is interested, reach out, because I think Camp Rainbow is a really great opportunity to just have some fun during summer and give back a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, back in 2010, I actually did my volunteer hours in high school for actually the school-based autism program summer camp, and it led me back to the team years later. So it's a great opportunity.
And that's a great story, Brooke, because you perhaps are one of several that has been the case, which is great. Brooke, you mentioned the S word earlier, stigma. And certainly when we talk about individuals on the spectrum, we talk about mental health in general. A lot of what we do as an organization is very stigmatizing for individuals. But, all the work that you do each and every day is a way to kind of counter that and try to debunk some of the fact that, this really should not be stigmatizing for people. They need to just kind of understand and accept and move forward as best as possible.
Yeah, I think for me, adults tend to hold the most stigma. We go into classrooms a lot and we explain what autism is and how that makes them a little bit different, and that's okay, and everybody's different. And the kids are just like, so. So I think the more we can educate the younger kiddos, I think that over time that stigma will get broken down more and more. But I think that this is a great opportunity to access some resources to educate more on what autism is and how it makes each person unique and individual.
And it's really great that we have the opportunity to embed ourselves into the community through our summer camp program, but then also through the community elements of services that we embed within the school day, because it's just a great way to demonstrate and model how to support someone with individualized needs, and really just breaking down this concept of like you have to treat them differently. You don't have to treat them differently. You treat anybody. You treat all people the same. Like you treat people, I like to say you treat people how they want to be treated. Everyone talks about the golden rule. You treat people how you want to be treated. You should treat people how they want to be treated. And we really just model that. And we've even had people come up to us in the community and say like, oh my God, this is so amazing. What organization are you with? We've had people try to hand us cash while we're on the community, like, can we make a donation? But it's just a really great way for community members to see how we are working on those skills with the kids that we work with in the community. And that, really working to break down that stigma of, everyone is different and everyone has different needs. And we're just really working on teaching explicitly different skills to these kiddos right now so that they can be more independent and successful in the future.
Yeah. Well, this has been terrific. We've talked about, April, of course, being Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month, May 19th being the Autism Walk at Collins Pearly, and I believe Camp Rainbow is the week of June 24th this year. It's moved up a little sooner than
last week of June.
Monday
through Friday.
All that have ties to autism spectrum disorder and those that are diagnosed with that and other developmental delays as well.
Yeah.
So I want to thank my guests, Megan Gargano and Brooke Benoit, for sharing their insights on the services that NCSS provides, which makes a difference in the lives of those diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder and their families, and also about the upcoming Autism Walk and Camp Rainbow. I also want to thank you, the viewer, for spending time with us again this month. You can learn more about all of our programs and services by logging on to ncssinc.org. I'm Joe Halko, and I'll be back next month with another episode of NCSS Here for You.